immigration isn't just, hey, Chris, I might get deported tomorrow, so can you help me?
Contrary to what you see on the news, we do none of that. Right? So the United States is the land of immigrants with the dumbest immigration system in the world. And if we all start there, this is going to make more sense and you'll do good in the class.
So welcome back, everyone. I'm Greg Coyne, your host today on the MISHRM Resource Partner video podcast. I'm Greg Coyne, and with me is a very special guest. Wanted to introduce Chris Allen. He is the owner of AMS Global Immigration, and I have a ton of good questions, at least I hope they're good, for Chris. So welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, so here's the first question, Chris. I really want to know, how does one even get involved in immigration law?
It's funny. I've been doing this about 30 years and nothing but this, right? So I know you've heard this joke before, but I always joke I couldn't do anything else in law to save my life, despite having a license.
Stop.
But there's also a running theme, I think, in my industry that people do this either because they've had a background with the immigration system themselves. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of people whose parents were through it, grandparents, or like me, they stumble on it, had no idea, it just clicks, you love it, and you never stop. Right?
Okay.
So everybody, I've said this many times, everybody who has contact with the U.S. immigration system either loves it or hates it. Yeah. No one's ever in the middle, right? And you really need to love this to do this full time.
Well, that's just it. So what is it that, yes, you dipped your toe in and then you gravitated to it. What is it that kind of stood out that said, all right, I get it now, I'm diving in? What was it?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of factors. One is just the nature of the practice and the law itself. It's very rewarding to see somebody. For instance, nowadays most of what I do is corporate immigration, so it'll be very rewarding for us to see a PhD researcher come out of Wayne State as a foreign student. My client picks them up and they get their dream job.
Yeah.
I'm primarily helping the company, but that individual tends to be very happy. I have gifts all over my office that people have brought me back from their home countries just because they're so happy that I made it to America. It's the American dream, right? So there's a lot of the draw in that, but you also really need to be comfortable with administrative procedural law, right? So there's no courtroom drama in my world, but there are a lot of forms, a lot of regulations, right? A lot of rules. I tell my paralegals, you need to be comfortable with the idea that you check this box below the one you meant to check, we lose, and everybody gets sued for malpractice. So you need to be comfortable with that.
Oh my gosh.
But I think that fits very well with my personality, very detail-oriented, procedure-oriented. So.
Well, it's interesting because, and I'm sure all of my attorney friends out there will be angry when I say this. You don't, from getting to know you over the last year or so, it's been fascinating because you don't strike me as your typical attorney. And you talk about checking the boxes, and I know that you're detail-oriented, but you have an outgoing personality with that. And I think that's vitally important for what you're doing because you have to this is a people issue, even though we're talking about a lot of forms and immigration. And immigration isn't just, hey, Chris, I might get deported tomorrow, so can you help me? All right. When you're dealing in the corporate realm, what are some things that you probably hear on a regular basis that people watching today just don't recognize?
Yeah, I always say that contrary to what you see on the news, we do none of that. Right? So there are just amazing, excellent immigration lawyers in town here who do deportation work. They do border support for asylees and refugees. Okay. There's charities around town. The Catholic Charities do a lot of work in this area. For a variety of reasons, we focus our practice on corporate immigration work. So we're helping companies with temporary work visa sponsorships, associated permanent resident sponsorships, a green card, so to speak, if the employee is working out and the employer's happy, and then associated compliance. So there's a lot of, every HR person knows about I-9s, right? And for the most part, I tell them you don't need a lawyer for a lot of I-9 stuff, but you do need a lawyer to keep an eye on it and for the odd questions that come up. So we do mostly that. But I also do want to stress that, again, it is a very personal, people-oriented practice. Yeah. right? I mean, the companies are our clients, HR is our contact, but I know these employees very well. We they feel almost like family to them. Some of them do to me because I won't get down in the weeds, but a lot of these immigration sponsorships can take years and years to work out.
Yeah.
So we'll be working with these employees, and I'll see them have children. I'll see their kids go to college, get married, the whole 9 yards. So you do really need to have that people personality, I think, to be successful.
I couldn't agree more. And we've talked about this too offline in the sense of, I've got a client that deals with us on a regular basis as well. So along those same lines with the prior question, what do you think gets most misunderstood, not just about your practice, but potentially about what you do?
Yeah, I would say I get a lot of questions from people outside of my client base and industry about things like deportation and, again, the things you see in the news.
Yeah.
And some of that is relevant. Again, for a variety of reasons, we tend to have a small portion of our practice that does focus on family cases or individual cases. Mm-hmm. And honestly, just because they're, again, very fun, very rewarding. So I've got so-and-so VP of engineering's parents, and we're helping them immigrate, right? So those things are fun as well. But that's not our bread and butter. It's not what we focus on.
Yeah.
Again, we're looking at temporary work visa sponsorships for those rock star engineers, IT people, the really hard to find, hard to fill jobs.
Okay.
And that's, because I always tell my clients, don't come to a lawyer and the government and spend thousands of dollars if there's a U.S. citizen sitting right there who can do this job, right? That's a waste of everyone's time and money, and so that's not what you get involved in.
But that's a huge step, because a lot of people, when they see or they hear about an attorney, especially when we're talking about immigration, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty that comes up. So one of the questions I would ask is, how do you keep people at peace in that? Because there is, hey, I want to be able to have that career. I want to be able to do this, but there are hurdles I have to go to. So how do you keep them in that right mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I taught immigration law out at a local university for about more than 15 years.
Wow.
To paralegals.
Okay.
And most of them were native-born U.S. citizens, and the first thing I would tell them is, the United States is the land of immigrants with the dumbest immigration system in the world. And if we all start there, this is going to make more sense, and you'll do good in the class. And that's what the foreign nationals and the companies are going through as well, right? I get on the phone and they say, we've got this person we want to hire. They are ideal for the job. We've been recruiting for 9 months. No one else even applies. And I tell them, you're not going to believe it, but this is what you're going to have to do to actually hire this person. And you want to keep them long term, it could be 2, 3, 4, honestly, depending on your country of birth, because of certain law or factors of the green card quota system, you could be looking at 10, 15 years before you can get a green card in this country. So I would, I have often joked with colleagues and with my wife, who I think works with me a little bit, that my job is 50% immigration lawyer and 50% personal therapist, and I am constantly talking employees off the ledge and telling them, it's fine, we've never lost one yet, you just need to trust me, this will work out. But it's almost Kafkaesque sometimes when I explain to them what you have to go through.
Oh my gosh! I mean, and the thing is that you are, in my humble opinion, a saint for doing this, because you have both ends of the spectrum. I mean, you've got all of the paperwork, which I am by no means detail oriented. I have to use all my energy when I am focused on that, and then you have to be the people expert as well. And it is a balance that is so hard to strike. So it's very cool to be able to see someone that does it, and then not only does it for a living, but runs their own practice. It's very cool.
Yeah,
so
not sure about the saint thing, but I appreciate it.
But let me circle back too, because even though we've heard the joke about it, I got into this. I mean, how did you get to ownership of your own company too? Because there's different ideations, I guess you'd say, of this, knowing you. So how did you get from point A to point B where you are today?
Yeah, I actually, as I mentioned earlier, stumbled on this topic in law school. I was getting not only my JD degree, but I had a dual degree in European Union law.
See, I just learned something. I didn't know that. So okay.
I used to be fluent in German. I was actually a certified translator. I made money in college translating technical documents.
Oh my gosh.
So hence the interest in European Union law. And I had figured, well, I'll come out of law school and I'll just find a job. They'll send me to Europe. I'll never come back. And I was very quickly disabused of that naive notion. That is not how the world works, definitely not how the legal profession works.
Sure.
But I was lucky enough to stumble on immigration law as an elective in the European Union certificate program.
Wow.
And again, it just clicked. I loved the class, loved the professor, immediately joined our National Immigration Lawyers group, came back up to Michigan and got a job with another attorney.
Okay.
But after a couple of years, my wife would say this is not surprising at all, knowing me and how a little bit cocky I can be. But after 2 or 3 years, I looked at this attorney. I said, great guy, I really love it. Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm really certain I can do this better. I'm just going to hang my shingle up over here and form my own law firm.
Nice.
So I did. There was a lot of learning, I'm going to say. Yeah, there's a lot of HR jokes about that first law firm.
Oh, jeez.
But we won't go into that detail in case DOL is listening. But I just kind of ran with it from there. Most immigration lawyers tend to be solos or small firms, boutique practices.
Yeah.
There's a couple of very, very large immigration firms that I have some experience with, but the majority of us tend to be boutiques.
Yeah.
So ran my own firm for most of my career, got married, had some young kids, and decided to take the whole practice into a very large general practice firm, which I very much still like and respect, but it was just not a good fit.
Sure.
So recently, especially after a couple of years of COVID, we decided, you know what, we should be doing this on our own. We're more nimble, quick, efficient, and we split back off then about a year ago and formed the current iteration of it, I'll say.
I love it. And you've been able to not just grow, but thrive in this environment. And because you have a lot of remote paralegals as well, do you not?
Correct, yeah. We, again, being a little bit of an IT nerd and procedure oriented, going back all the way to 2017, 2018, my lead paralegal manager and I decided we're taking this whole thing paperless. And so we just scanned every document in the office and came up with ways to deal with massive amounts of data rather than gigantic files. Because our volume is so high, right? A typical lawyer may be juggling 12, 15 files, and we're juggling 400 to 500 at any point in time.
Yeah.
So it just made a lot of sense.
So and I think it's the beauty of it is that, one, you're doing that, but two, you're able to do it through the U.S. government. And that's always a tricky thing because you need, I'm presuming there's still typically a lot of paper that is required, which you can bypass it. But the fact that your law firm is paperless, I love it. I love hearing that. Anyone that can make that step.
It allowed for a lot of efficiencies, economies of scale. And when COVID hit, obviously, we all looked at each other and said, oh my God, pandemic, but we've been working from home anyway. We're paperless. This is great, right? We can do it immediately.
I get it. Yeah. And we did a similar item in terms of a lot of our training and coaching. We were, a hybrid model. And so when that happened, everything was virtual and we were good to go. So I get that. So
fortunately, the government is not paperless.
Yes, yes.
So we do have to, at the end of I always describe it as the last 1/10 of 1 mile of every case, we print 300 to 400 pages and put them in a FedEx. It's amazingly inefficient, but they have a 5-year plan. They say they're going paperless.
Oh, I cross my fingers. I cross my fingers.
The IRS can do it. Come on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That is a great illustration of that. So let me ask too. I want to pivot just a little bit.
Sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You're in your last portion of your term as treasurer for MISHRM. Is that correct?
Yeah, and unless no one else stands up and volunteers. So
okay.
Hopefully someone does.
Well, and here's the thing. One very cool aspect that I found is not only what you do as an owner, what you do is in practice with your business, but that you've taken on the responsibility of a leadership role within MISHRM. You've been able to really carve out this incredible niche. So for someone who is watching this podcast, as someone who is maybe not necessarily an HR professional, what are some recommendations you might give and to say, hey, look at this is an area that needs a lot of help, and this is how you can bring that to the table.
Yeah, I think not only with immigration, but any sort of HR ancillary support service that someone would provide. My recommendation is just to contact your local chapter, contact MISHRM, and get involved. Right? I mean, I was one of the original resource partners in Detroit, the Detroit chapter of SHRM. Ended up being on the board there for 4 or 5 years, and then rolled onto the MISHRM board. So I've been kind of involved with the SHRM community now for, it's got to be 12, 15 total years, and it's become friends and family more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm always happy to help with the immigration thing, but that is not exactly why I do it.
This is true, and I will add to it by saying, you were one of the first people that I met, very approachable, very welcoming, and I appreciate that. And I think it's a huge component to what you do. And I think so many HR professionals, when they get involved and we talk about resource partners, it's not about just selling the business or a product or a service. It's legitimately there to help. And so I really want that to be, I guess, a segment that's recognized, especially in this one. The other thing I would ask is, how outside of, as you said, the I-9s, can you be a good resource to a lot of HR professionals who are also watching this program today?
Yeah, again, I always say, as you just mentioned, we don't have a repetitive product that we sell exactly. So helping HR to help the company, to help this deserving foreign national, that's kind of our business target, I'm going to say. So anytime an HR person has a foreign worker on their payroll, yes, we have the I-9 compliance issues, but that's for all workers, right? But if you have a foreign worker actually on your payroll, and this could just be a student who it doesn't require direct company sponsorship, but they may be working for you, that's the point to call me, because I always tell my HR clients and friends, which I have a lot of. My wife jokes, you have no friends, you have HR people. I said, that's because they're the best friends, they're the best people. But I always tell them, you have a real job, and this stuff is so absurd. You really just leave it to me, right?
Nice.
This probably sounds a little odd to say, but most immigration lawyers do everything by fixed fee. We don't record hours, we don't bill by hours, so we're not going to charge you for some emails or phone calls to sort out this crazy thing that got thrown on your desk amongst all the other really crazy problems that an HR person has to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So I really pride myself in trying to use plain English to make this as understandable as possible and as small of a burden as possible on the HR person's day. And that really, I think, is my entire business model. I think someone write that down.
I gotta say, that's recorded. It's write it down. Write it down
on the website.
I love it. I will ask, because to me, I've just found you to be a very intriguing person, and I want that to be a compliment, because there's just a lot of things that you've done that are different, both personally and professionally. If there is one story that you can leave myself and the rest of the viewers with, what is, either personal or professional, what is one story that kind of sticks out that you'd like people to know about you?
About me personally.
I know. I love putting guests on the spot. At the same time, I'm just fascinated by some of the things that we have talked about. So what's one that you'd like to share with the rest of the group today?
Yeah, I think if I had to, it's not so much a story, I guess, so much as an aspect of my personality that I think a lot of people don't know about. And it dovetails, I think, nicely with my profession if you do immigration for a living, which is that I was a math and economics major in college. I came out thinking, well, that degree is unmarketable. What am I going to do now? Right? And again, luckily stumbled on immigration, but I think because of that, I have dovetailed nicely with things like being the treasurer at MISHRM, with leveraging technology.
Yes.
Right? So most of my friends tell me I'm an IT engineer stuck in a lawyer's body, and I just haven't beat my way out yet. Right? One of these days I'm going to do it.
Oh my gosh!
So we just launched some new web portal technology for our clients, and
awesome.
I just love doing that. I mean, that is really my passion, aside from immigration, if I have one.
Yeah. I would say we'll continue this geek out conversation offline. Totally. Before we go, how can people get in touch with you? Go ahead.
Yeah, the best way right now is actually LinkedIn, because the firm is fairly new, we're launching our website. I think you saw some of our headshot photos that were done recently.
I did.
We'll have that up soon.
You should also tell people to go on to, I believe it's YouTube, for your a little bit of your marketing, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'm not sure we've got anything up there current right now, but yeah, LinkedIn, email, phone, either one is fine. All of my contact information is actually on LinkedIn right now.
Perfect.
And then we'll have our website up fairly soon. So.
Awesome. I'm excited to see it because I've seen a little bit of the tidbits beforehand, so I'm excited to get it out to the rest of the viewers. So again, thank you so much, Chris, for being on. This is Chris Allen. He is the owner of AMS Global Immigration. And I am Greg Coyne, your host once again for the MISHRM Resource Partner Video Podcast. Thank you all for being here today. And until next time, thanks, farewell, and have a great one.